Welcome to the joy of creation. Meditation helps us to tap into the power of creation. Last week or last Tuesday, we talked about the power of intention. And today we're going to discuss intention and how it relates to our intuition. These two skills that can be practiced in tandem, we can tap into them more readily through the practice of meditation. We also learned in the second week that in meditation, you can develop your chi power, your life force energy. So we all have an inner energy, vitality. We know when we feel low on energy, when we feel drained of energy. The more that you meditate or practice any of the healing arts, you become more and more aware of energy and the subtleties of energetics. So when you're practicing meditation, you can begin to consciously develop your chi, meaning that you can flow this energy through your body and cultivate it in your meditation practice, understanding that flowing your energy, learning how to manage and balance your own energy is instrumental to having a strong meditation practice, because meditation is there to help you strengthen your health, bolster your immune system. And we all have this chi. It's like electricity that runs through your channels and your meridians like a super highway system through your whole body. So when we get a stuck place and there's tension and we feel pain, the chi is stuck there. There's stagnation in that part of the body. It can also create dis-ease. And in Chinese medicine, they recognize that any kind of blocks or dis-ease often come from unbalanced emotions, such as anger, fear, shame, guilt, sadness. If we haven't taken time to be present with our true emotions, they get stuck in the cellular memory of our body. And meditation is the opportunity to become present, fully present with the way that we feel, exactly how we feel, including all of our emotions, good or bad, challenging, dark, sticky, messy. And that's the opportunity to release those emotions so that they can move. And when you get in touch with your emotions, we don't act out, become violent or aggressive. We don't, go into the stress response, which is fight or flight. We're trying to run away or avoid or hide what we feel or deny what we feel. We become fully present with our true experience through the practice of meditation. And that's how meditation is deeply healing. It helps us balance and flow our energy to tap into and touch stillness, and really understanding the value of allowing ourselves to experience a little bit of stillness every day so that we can get in touch with our deeper energy. We can get in touch with our intuition or even our instinct, which can help us, can be a life protecting mechanism to be engaged with your instinct. And this is how chi, health, meditation, flow, it all comes together. It's like a holistic system, a holistic way of living. And we have this incredible intelligence that lives within us. You could call it the intelligence of the heart or divine intelligence, universal intelligence. I think there is no denying that there are things that happen in the universe that are not explained by just logic and science and mathematics, that things happen miraculously, they happen serendipitously. Um, the levels of coincidence that we experience are beyond measure, especially when we start tapping into the field of, you could say, quantum physics, or just even a practice like meditation. You begin to really become aware that there is this vital intelligence we can tap into. You could also call it our guidance. So, that awareness, listening, breathing, and centering from our heart space gives us our own internal sense of morality, integrity, right action, where it's coming from deep within us. We're not following externally what people say we should be doing, but we're deeply connected to our own integrity, our own health system that is constantly guiding us in the right direction if we're able to get out of the way, if we're able to get out of our head a little bit, slow down our thoughts, and calm down. We can start to access the still inner voice that's connected to infinite wisdom and knowledge. Everything that you need to know is already within you. And when we follow this internal compass, what you could call guidance or inner genius, it's deeply joyful. There is something that is, I feel, very connected to your sense of health and well-being when you're actively engaged in your truth, or speaking your truth, or expressing yourself, actively engaged and present with life. It's that feeling of being alive and connected to your true joy. And it's an intangible, invisible thing to follow the subtle energy within yourself. But once you tap into it and you trust it, you could even find how precise our intuition can be. That in fact, it can be quite specific and lead to specific outcomes. And so imagine we have this incredible guide within ourselves that we can tap into through meditation. I think meditation is one of the most powerful ways to tap into this space. There are other ways to tap into this space, such as art, or dance, or singing, or Tai Chi, Qigong, even yoga. You can start to tap into this space. There is a shamanic equation that says imagination plus intention yields intuition. Imagination plus intention yields intuition. And Albert Einstein said that imagination is more important than knowledge. He always emphasized the importance, as a genius himself, of imagination. There's even another quote that says, "The mind can take you from A to B, but imagination can take you everywhere." And we can tap into other, I would say, levels of consciousness through the power of our imagination. That, just what we see, or what we've been taught to think, or what we've been taught to see, isn't the full reality of our experience. And through meditation, we can start to tap into, I would say, realms of existence, that we can start to tap into this idea of unity, and that we're all connected. And once we start tapping into our creative brain, what I refer to as our creative brain, or our spiritual brain, versus the stress brain. I call this the stress brain, especially when we go into stress thinking, which is like very fragmented, fast thoughts. When we're relaxed and we open up, we become receptive. That's when our creativity begins to flow. We begin to see things in new ways, experience things in new ways. And even if you look at the word imagination, magic is in that line, you know, magi. And the person that can perform alchemy or magic, you tap into that space. It's a space of transformation, transmutation, alchemy. And when you connect your imagination together with your intention, so perhaps you have an intention to have an answer about something that's important to you. So you have this intention, and then you allow yourself to connect to your imagination. So not your thinking brain, but the creative brain. That helps you tap into the powers of your intuition. Intuition is our ability to instantly know beyond reason. So intuition is instant. They call it insight. It just comes in a moment. You don't have to do a lot of thinking. There's no logical processing and reasoning. And unfortunately, with our Western culture and society, we've kind of come down to what I feel is the lower part of our brain, again, more the stress brain, which relies on past, future thinking and conditioned thinking, what we've been taught to believe. We haven't been taught to, for most of us, to connect to our intuition and to trust that part of our being, to live from our core or our gut or what feels right instinctively. But this is a skill that we can develop through the practice of meditation. We can, develop these softer skills. And when we develop these more subtle, softer skills, what we find is that just through applying a level of focus, a quality of attention and awareness, that we can shift things much more easily than with, let's say, brute force or a lot of thinking and overthinking, which can often happen. When we live in the state of meditation, it's literally living in the state of inspiration to action. Inspire means to breathe into, and we take the breath and we act on that place. And then that is true, spontaneous living in the moment, being present in the moment, engaging moment to moment in this act of creation. And it's very joyful if we allow ourselves to go into that space. So, where does your intention come from? When we meditated on our intention this week, where was that coming from when you were contemplating your life intention? So just taking a moment to think about that. Maybe you felt that it was coming from your heart, or maybe it did come from the mind, like this sounds or this looks like a good idea, so I'm going to create this intention. And there's nothing wrong with the mind. It's just that when we let the mind serve the spirit, then it's in real service versus the other way around. When we try to get things to serve what is going on in our mind. So we're looking for that deeper connection. And something to contemplate is creating your intentions from the inner place of intuition. Because on some level, your soul knows what you need to grow, what you need to progress, what you can refine or focus in your own life. So we are all already perfect and whole. We're already all worthy of love and joy and peace. And yet, what we can all benefit from raising our awareness, from letting ourselves grow from the inside out. There is this continual process of evolution, and this divine intelligence is part of this evolution that we can begin to tap into. So think of it as when you start to follow your inner flow, that in a way it helps you to jump into the wave of creation, this divine plan or destiny unfolding, and in that sense ride that wave. And when we feel and we let ourselves tap into a deeper rhythm or that deeper flow within ourselves, we trust that, then we start to find that things happen by themselves. It becomes an effortless flow or more effortless way of living. um, and that's really, I would say, a primary benefit of developing a meditation practice, is learning how to drop into this deeper, more joyful, peaceful place within ourselves, so that it's easy to go with the flow of life, even if we're facing intense waves or chaos or storms, that we have that inner skill of balance to navigate skillfully. So letting your intention arise from your intuition through meditation practice, and that it's okay to have an intention, it's okay to have a desire in your life. I think in spiritual traditions, desire is a controversial thing. You're not allowed or you're not supposed to have desire, but every human has a desire. And what I'm talking about, I think I'd like to make a distinction between higher desires and lower desires. So, lower desires might be our desire to overeat or binge watch Netflix, um, over talk or gossip too much. These are sort of lower desires that bring us down to a lower nature, or maybe even create attachment or addiction, like that kind of karmic loop that keeps us stuck and limited. A higher desire is a desire that brings us closer to ourselves. It brings us a greater sense of expansion, a greater sense of freedom, a greater sense of love and connection. That's a higher desire. And I think we're all come through with this higher desire. Sometimes some people have it more covered up than other people, but your energy, the way your energy flows, especially when you're creating, when you let yourself tap into that deeper desire, that fire of creation, the passion, that energy, it bolsters you, it strengthens you, it gives you, it feeds you energy. And so it's okay to channel our higher desires. It's okay to have desire or any feeling that exists in the human, experience. It's okay to have any of those feelings. So, you know, in the practices we teach, everything is part of your meditation. There's nothing left out of the meditation experience. Anything that is in the human experience is allowed in meditation. There's no restriction or control or suppression. There's no force, which I think there has been a lot of that in spiritual traditions, where there's this idea of control, force, restriction. Um, what we really emphasize is this natural way. When you really let yourself go deep, following a natural way for you and trusting what feels good. So again, in spiritual tradition, you might not be allowed to trust what feels good, because what feels good is bad. We learn to trust everything that we feel, no matter if it is good or bad. And so I just want to create some of those subtle distinctions, because what can happen when we develop meditation is that we get very mental about our meditation practice. It becomes a mental exploration or a mental endeavor. And again, it's a holistic, it's energetic, it's spiritual, it's multidimensional, and we can go beyond our mind. We can go beyond mental constructs. We can also go beyond traditions. You know, anything that has been organized or is dogmatic, we can give ourselves permission through meditation to explore, you know, what really works. And what I find when people are learning meditation, they don't do well if they feel like they're beating themselves up. So if they're showing up to meditation, it feels hard, they start berating themselves, then they feel guilty for not meditating, and then they think I have to force myself and, you know, use that force to create discipline. There are much easier ways to, you know, let yourself sink into, surrender into your practice when it's coming from a place of love, and letting that be the foundation of your practice is this inner sense of love and acceptance for your experience. So, listening to your intuition. Practice listening when meditation gives us that opportunity to open that spiritual sight, or you could say your spiritual hearing, um, where you're listening on those deeper, more subtle levels. And it's just a practice of paying attention. And oftentimes, when we are in that place of complete stillness, that's the vibration or the energy where intuition can begin to flow through. And we start to receive those messages or those hits that tell us, yeah, I think I want to go this way, or, you know, making decisions that, you know, bring us to a higher place for ourselves. And we might become more aware of what's authentic for us and what's not authentic, and letting ourselves be flexible and fluid in that experience. Um, and that intuition is, we know when it's our intuition because it feels loving, it's grounding, it gives us a sense of peace. Oftentimes it sounds wise. Intuition wouldn't necessarily come through as like a harsh, like this or that, you know. It's often like just a very quiet, persistent feeling or voice, and when we act on it, or when we listen to it and we think about acting on it by using our imagination, oftentimes we'll feel just lighter, we'll feel a sense of relief, and we'll feel a sense of expansion. I think that when we're not listening to ourselves on the deeper level, it causes tension and anxiety. It can actually cause some angst because there's something we're not looking at or we're in some denial about. So when we listen, it's very healing. It helps us to be more centered and to be more present when we're listening at a deeper level. So think of it as when you send out your intention, there is that picture of the mandala. It has this energetic pattern or frequency, that beautiful flower. So the intention is set within. You know, it's not out there. It's about becoming, embodying your intention, embodying your life creation. And I think it's so beautiful that women, we give birth to life, and that whole act, you know, our bodies being built for that, that we can learn how to, you know, use our body almost like an instrument. And anybody can do that, where you feel through the use of your imagination the embodiment of this intention or intuition that wants to come through. That is the next step, or the emergence, or you could say unfolding of life. I think I see life as this like continual flower that's just like unfolding, and we're like that too. And sometimes we're unfolding, sometimes we're not. But if you think about this pattern through our intention, it's like setting a dial on a radio station. So you're setting the dial, and by picking the station of what you want to listen to, what you feel like you're in the mood for, then that frequency gets sent out and you pull in the music you want to listen to. So it's a frequency, it's an energy that you're connecting to through your intention, that you're willing to embody, embrace within your being. And when that is really integrated for you, it sends out a signal. If you think about sending out a boomerang, if you throw a boomerang, how it comes back. And this is similar to this amazing practice of what people call today prayer, or they call it manifestation or attraction, however you want to call that, synchronicity, that you're sending out, you have this intention or this inspiration that has come to mind, and you let it go. You know, you feel it, you see it, you hear it, then you also surrender it, you let it go, and you let it happen. You let it happen. So instead of trying to chase after something, it's, you know, this ability to almost see possibilities and letting that possibility come forward. And so this is, I guess, the easiest way I felt I could explain this phenomenon that we can tap into through meditation when we become quiet and still, is that it's like tuning into a radio station, broadcasting, dialing in, broadcasting, and then receiving the music or the experience that we would like to have. So we can become conscious creators in our own evolution, and even have that conscious intention to live our own dharma or our destiny or our life purpose, so that we're realizing um, the fullness of our human and spiritual potential, and just how joyful that experience is when we understand our creative powers on this deeper level. And it's not really difficult, like you don't need anything special. I feel that this is really just our birthright, that because we've been taught through society to do everything in a really hard way, to think about things hard, to do things and be constantly busy, that we sort of we miss the present moment, is what happens. And if we trust that the present moment is enough, and we allow ourselves to pay attention. So once you've set that intention, you let it go and just let yourself enjoy life, let yourself pay attention and be present. Then you can start to just watch things happen. You know, it's like being part of this amazing orchestra musical show. Um, and it really doesn't take much. And paying attention is a joyful act in itself. It's creation looking at creation, and it helps us to unplug. It helps us to feel free, appreciate the moment, to be present. And there's so much value to being present, because all healing, all creation, the point of power, these things, they're in the present moment. So if we're not here, if we're not present, then we're missing out. If we're just only in the past or future in our head, we're really missing out. So take time to consciously just pay attention throughout your day where you're not actively consuming, engaging, reading, listening to music, but just paying attention for maybe a couple minutes at a time where you just go outside, you look around, and you're just that act of paying attention and without, doing or engaging in some other way. So try this exercise and take action on what feels internally right or good. So once you have made your intention, or you don't even have to have a conscious intention, just practicing taking action in the moment for what feels right or good is, I feel like it's a healthy way of living. And again, we're not really taught to trust what feels right and good for ourselves. We're taught what's right and good, but to trust internally, yeah, I don't know why, but I feel like if I do this, or if I would like to eat this, and it doesn't have to make sense. So even just moving beyond that realm of things needing to make sense or be logical or be sensical, um, it just puts you into like this fun fun aspect of life, of just taking action on these things because you feel inwardly prompted. And once you take action on them, you'll kind of notice too that there's this experience that happens. There's almost like a deeper sense of peace or release. And because we're constantly being guided in a direction towards health and balance, it's built within us. So it's trusting this internal compass that we have, this divine intelligence, and be open to really receive. Again, we live in this world very yang based, I call it the more masculine based yang, doing, going, achieving. It's like a constant, you're always going one way. It's just like you're out there to get and to accomplish or to achieve or to consume or to produce. We're not really taught to sit back and do nothing, and that there's a lot of value in that practice. So really, to be open to receive, we need space. If we're constantly engaged in this all the time, then we're not really available to receive or available to be open for those things that we had intended for, because you need to have some space for magic flow to happen. There's got to be some spaciousness that's there. So if your schedule is like this all day long, and then you feel tired, well, it's probably because there was no space available for magic to happen or synchronicities to happen, or just to, do nothing without agenda. So just having some space is important, having downtime, being genuinely open and receptive. So if we don't have that space, if we're always full, how are we going to receive something new or create something new if we're always engaged in the same old thing over and over and over again? So I want to just talk a little bit about blocks to this ability to be part of the joy of creation. Is a lot of mental busyness, overthinking, too much mental effort all day long, relying on this part of the brain instead of just the spirit. I would say instead of also engaging the spiritual brain. We also have unconscious wounds and beliefs, such as, I'm not good enough, or everybody else can get that, but I can't get that, or I don't deserve that. These kinds of subtle feelings and emotions that are always at play in the background. the unconscious is more powerful in terms of creating than the conscious mind. So our conscious mind knows, like, oh, this would be really good if I had a nice house and a nice relationship and a good job. But our unconscious, which is based on a lot of our childhood relationships and our childhood experiences or wounding, where we weren't, you know, really seen or heard, um, that can play in the background. And that's like the real magnet for the opportunities and the experiences, is what happens in the unconscious realm. And we don't even know that we're drawing certain people and experiences to us over and over and over again to help us heal unconsciously these wounds or blocks that we have. So meditation is so powerful for that, because it raises our awareness and we say, okay, this is deja vu. I've experienced this before. I know what this pain is. This pain keeps coming up for me. And this is part of the divine intelligence. I don't know how this happens, but we have these same experiences until we really get it, until we change, until we shift. It's amazing how those experiences, and then those experiences will come in more intensely when we're ready to change. You'll get hit real hard with something when you're going to up level, when you're going to go to the next level. So, and then the block of just being too much in the headspace rather than just like connected to the body, connected to your heart and everything that's around you. Just having this very myopic kind of point of view, right? Like the tunnel vision that happens from being more in the stress part of the brain. And that with meditation, we open up the awareness through centering and grounding. We can start to open up our awareness to the present moment and train ourselves how to do that through practice. So being intuitive, what people call psychic, having that sixth sense, it's just natural. It's nothing, again, you don't have to be special to have this gift of intuition. We're naturally intuitive. And you'll find that the more you just let yourself take action or do what feels natural for you, you'll be more in touch with your own intuition, your own divine intelligence, and just how good and nourishing that feels to be in touch with that part of yourself and just being who you are. I think our intelligence, that intuition, the inner genius, that weird part of ourselves, the quirky, eccentric part of ourselves, that unique part of ourselves, that's the expression of your true self. So whether you call that your authentic self, your true self, being who you are, that's the purpose of meditation, is self-realization, liberation, freedom to be who you are and to feel good about who you are, to love who you are, and to know that who you are at your deepest level is pure, divine love. And when we realize this state over and over, more and more through meditation, it's easier to follow what feels inspiring. Fear in the mind doesn't have that grip on us, and we're able to follow the flow, expand, feel free to be who you are. And that's the gift of spiritual practice. Again, these are soft skills, the skill of applying your intention, the skill of listening to your intuition, and they're skills that can be developed, and they're very important. Just because they're not something that is immediately tangible or visible doesn't mean that they're not valuable. And the more you apply these practices, the more you'll see how invaluable they are and how much it can in a sense, preserve your life force energy, because you're not spending so much energy towards, things that aren't really, centering you or building you up. Um, so taking time to just explore some of these skills through meditation practice, which we can develop. And these are some of the gifts that I think we can really engage in, which is the divine communication, communication with ourselves, the divine creator, being part of this creation in the present moment. These are the gifts that we can start to engage in. So it's more than just watching thoughts or breathing, but actually participating at that level, participating at a level of divine creation. And that we can tap into these states: relaxation, ease, effortlessness, and we can just, lighten up. And that's why it's called enlightenment, as just so that we feel more light, more free, less burdened. And that's a continual practice. It's not something you do once, it's something you do a little bit every day. And then as you do it a little bit every day, you get better and better at that skill. So taking time to practice stillness a little bit each day as a part of your health regimen. I hope that this webinar and that this course challenge has invited you to experience this and to experience the benefit of being in stillness, the benefit of being present and relaxed and focused. So this is my wish also to you, that you're able to experience the spirit of meditation practice. And thank you so much for joining. This is the last day of the Aloha Meditation Challenge. Thank you so much. Blessings and namaste. So if you remember anything, practice with aloha. That's really important. Peace, compassion, love.